This is the Squashin podcast.
Alright, this is episode number 1 of the Squash on My Nuts podcast. I'm your host, Josh. I'm really hoping that intro worked. I don't know. It cracks me up every time I hear it. Alright. This podcast, it takes place in my apartment. I'm pretty sure I got it to where you can't hear cars going by, but I do live on a pretty busy street in Anchorage, Alaska. Other than that, you might hear my dog bark. Other than that, it should be pretty good overall. It took me a while to finally get a spot to record, I think, to where you don't hear anything in the background. This podcast, it's literally sitting around, bong rips, cracking jokes on wacky YouTube videos, news articles, just the weirdness that's going on in everyday life, going on into 2020, and what better way to go into 2020 than to start a podcast? Why not? I mean, we all have something to say, right? But this podcast is sponsored by Mother Nature's Nectar, also known as water, H2O, Wawa, Agua, Yum Yum, the liquid you use to make Kool-Aid, the stuff that always keeps me hydrated on those hot summer days, also cures the cotton mouth, and always keeps you urinating crystal clear. My dog's looking at me like I'm an idiot for talking to myself, which I think that's the consensus most people think when I told them I wanted to start a podcast. You're an idiot. But why not? Yeah, why start a podcast? Living in Alaska in the wintertime, honestly, I've been up here roughly like 7, going on 8 years, I think, total, off and on. First came up here in 2005 for the military and the Army. Wasn't really here long because then we left on deployment, and then we're gone for a year, come back, and yeah, I was only here for a few more months after that, and then left to California, and then for some odd reason decided to come back and in 2014, and then lived here in Anchorage again until 2016. Left with a lady. That clearly worked out because here I am back in Alaska, and it's 2019 going into 2020. So yeah, that's the tiptoe of the craziness that is my life. Yeah, so there'll be a lot of that, a lot of diving into my craziness that I think some people probably know, but definitely a lot of people don't know, and it could, relate to a lot of people. It could, help a lot of people too. I have been divorced twice, and I've overcome quite a few different things, so hopefully we can help each other along the way and help this grow. Also, going through the VA as an Army veteran, dealing with that process too, and, doing that, I believe can give some information as far as that goes, because I know that is a big headache amongst veterans. I know friends of mine, some of them have given up on care from the VA altogether. So it's one of those things. I think if you have the right help and the right support team, the help is there. That you shouldn't give up, and it is worthwhile, especially if you put in the work and you have the right people backing you and giving you the information. Hopefully, everything to this point should be figured out at most VAs, I would hope. I know most of the ones I've gone to have really cracked down on the opioids, the pain meds, even outpatient, when they send you out to outpatient care through the VA and send you out to clinics and stuff. I know it's real hard to get actual pain meds now. So I know they're, at least here, cracking down on it in Alaska for some people, I would say. I know it's one of those crazy epidemics where people are going to find a way to do it one way or another. But that isn't really what I wanted to talk about so much today. There was this YouTube video that I kind of started watching and went down a rabbit hole after seeing it on another podcast. And it is this crazy lady who plays around with wolves. And she is straight up letting them lick in her mouth non-stop, wide open tongue kisses. Wolves with fangs that have to be like 2 inches long. Like, what the? Yeah, I'm not sure if she is actually still alive or not. I mean, I really don't want to look it up, but as karma would say, one way or another, she's going to get her face bitten off by a wolf. It doesn't happen. You just don't hang out with wolves like that. Just tongue kiss, you just don't do it. I have a 4-year-old pit bull, and there's not a chance that I would let him open mouth just tongue me. No way. This is not a chance. It's like, I've felt him nick me before, and nope. He just, even if he just had a little sneeze, open mouth, mouth to mouth, this is gonna just blow out your teeth. Like what are you doing? Like, you don't. People, I don't understand it. Doesn't make sense to me, but to each their own, right? Fuck. It's so crazy to me. But I mean, is she just stupid or ballsy and just bigger balls than me? I'm going with fucking batshit. Batshit stupid. Like that. Wow. Nah. Yeah, you just don't let. Yeah, you just. And she's gone all over the world and hangs out with all these different wolves and all these different sanctuaries. I'm telling you, I don't know if she is alive or not. The last video I saw was like 2 years ago. I mean, Yeah. Okay. So a year ago at least. So who's to say? I mean, a year ago she was making videos. But no. Yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and say, yeah, she was munched down by a pack of wolves. Yeah. Oh man. So I definitely think I took way too many bong rips. Little spaced out. But that's probably gonna happen a lot on this podcast. It's just the way it is. Um, but one thing I have learned this winter, above all things, is I've turned 34, and I hate the cold. It hits me in my bones in a way that uh, I hate it. I used to love going outside, playing in the snow and building snow forts and sledding and being cold all day. And, it was fun. It was fun being outside and being in the snow. But now that I've gone through a broken foot and back issues and knee issues and stuff from the military, it's like I get out in the cold for a few minutes and I'm good. I don't need it. I don't want it. And not only on top of that, like right now it's not bad. Like snow wise up here, like it's a little slick on the roads, but snow here in Anchorage, we don't really have that much at the moment. Um, but cold, we are in like a little cold front, so it is hitting down into I think the single digits by this weekend. This is the 19th of December. Um, but I mean, other than that, there's places that get way crazier snow than we do. And, we, a lot of the times, Anchorage doesn't get that bad of snow. It's more like, I think last winter was like rainy and icy and slick. And this winter, so far, we had one big snow dump, and since it's just been more so slick, icy, melt, rain, mixture, bullshit. It's always bullshit. Global warming? Who knows? Conspiracy? Oh. It's one of the I don't know. Who knows? Does anybody know? Maybe it is global warming. What is going on? Um uh yeah, anyways. What? Thor's kind of eyeballing me and whining. I already took him out before this, so that way I had time to talk without him being a pouty baby. But clearly, he's being a pouty baby. And that's just going to happen because the neighborhood we're in, he might hear some, um, what do you want to say? Drunken, homeless individuals walking by. Um, and so he definitely barks at them. Sometimes, for some odd reason, I live on a third floor. Excuse me. It does happen where, oh man, people come up and they'll beat on my door, and I live on the third floor, and I don't, I mean, drink or anything, and I it's just yeah, it's a very strange neighborhood we live in. I'm not out partying or doing anything, and also just living on the third floor. I live on the third floor, but every once in a while you'll get these random people, which is weird because I think the person who lived here before me was a very very old dude. So I'm pretty sure he wasn't dealing drugs out here. I don't even think he could see very well. So there's been times where people have beat on my door, even with my dog barking, which, like I said, pit bull. He's probably, like, what do you think? He's probably about 80 pounds now. I mean, and he'll jump and hit that door and just bark, like, super, super loud bark. And this lady was one night was pounding on the door asking for drugs, and I opened the door, gun held out to her, pointed the gun at her, trying to hold back my wild ass dog as well, telling her, "What the fuck are you doing? What do you want? It's 2 o'clock in the morning." And she's like, "Do you got that dope?" I'm like, "What the fuck? Like, was I smoking some like really loud, Kush one night where she just smelt it and just figured, hey, it must be coming from up there." I don't know what the fuck happened, but yeah, it's shit. I've dealt with a lot of crazy shit like that, Dylan, living in this neighborhood, but it's fun. It makes for fun. It makes for comedy, really. I mean, sadness, if you think about it deep down, I mean, it is kind of sad how you see all these people, so addicted to drugs where they're homeless or they're living on the streets. And I mean, what's the answer to that? I mean, you hear that it's bad everywhere. You hear it's bad, New York, California, any big city, and Anchorage is one of those places. I mean, it's spread out, but I think there's like 300,000 people up here or something like that, just in this area, which that's a lot of people. And we do, especially in the wintertime, you see it, that we do have quite a few homeless people. I mean, you kind of isolated it into some areas, but you'll still see it around, especially like going downtown. I mean, a lot of alcohol and drugs involved, and it's just I mean, and so I get a lot of that foot traffic coming by where I live, and I mean, you see it. You see people. It's scary. I mean, every time I take my dog out to go outside to go to the bathroom, I have to go out there with protection, locked and loaded, because you never know. I mean, whether it's people leaving their crazy pit bulls off leash, roaming around, getting in dog fights. I've seen that. To, I mean, people jumping out of the dumpsters. I've seen that as well. I mean, it's crazy that you have to be armed because you don't know if real life Oscar the Grouch is going to pop out and get you when you put your trash in there. It's crazy stuff. Like, I mean, but I've lived in all sorts of places where crazy shit like that happens. I mean, and it's not really that bad of a neighborhood. It's just you get people who are on drugs and really boozed up and a mixture of mental health issues and whatnot, and this sort of stuff happens. I mean, what can you do? What can you do? It's like, who knows? Clearly, their families have given up on them, and they've just let addictions and things take over. I mean, you see it firsthand every day. I mean, it's hard to. I mean, you want to help them, but like as soon as you give them money, you see them turn around and go buy marijuana, or they go buy booze, and then they're just going out and pestering people for more money just to keep doing the same thing rather than help themselves. It's a cycle for a lot of them. I mean, and you see them every year, the same thing every year, until sometimes you don't see some of them anymore. And, it's, I don't know. It's a problem that everybody talks about, but nobody has any solutions to, What do? Do you just build a compound and you have enough land up here in Alaska? Do you just build a big old compound and put all the homeless people in it and just let them make stuff, let them create things for their living quarters, and they're fed, and then that way you're getting something out of it. They're creating some sort of product, and then they're paying for their living situation, but also have like on-site medical and help, so that way they can also better themselves, so they don't also always have to live there. They can eventually, hopefully they do have families. Hopefully a lot of them. You would hope all these homeless people, what is it, like thousands and thousands down in LA, and there's probably, I don't know, it's hard to estimate, but at least hundreds probably up here. That's a lot of people. To think that none of them have families, or they just don't give a shit. I mean, that maybe that's a lot of it. They just get drunk, or they get angry. I've seen a lot of people very angry. Who knows what that is? Could be the alcohol, could just be mad about something else. I'm not a doctor. But for another time, that's always an issue. I think that was a point I was going off of Thor barking at stuff. But also, yeah, starting a podcast. Other than the boredom and the cold, finding out that I hate the cold in Alaska, this is a long time coming. I've talked about it for a long time. I've listened to a lot of other podcasts for a long time. And it's something I've always wanted to do. Eventually, hopefully, I can interview people locally that I find interesting. Friends, bullshit. Talk about stuff. Share stories, war stories and whatnot. Alaska is one of those weird places where if you get stationed up here, a lot of people end up staying. I don't know what it is. I mean, I'm originally from the South, grew up in the Midwest, but I don't know. I don't know if it was the mountains that won me over. I'm still trying to figure it out to this day. But to that point, there's a few of us Army veterans that stayed up here. Which is kind of nice. When you can get together, everybody's got their own lives. That's just growing up. But yeah, that's another thing too. Alaska, that's a curious thing to me. Why I came back up here, of all places. Always called back up to here. I think it is the mountains. There's a lot to explore up here too. Drinking that sweet, sweet Mother's Nature's nectar. Yeah, the mountains, there's a lot to explore. There's a lot of places I want to go and see and photograph still, I think, before I could leave here. So I think to pass the time, I'd start a podcast. I know this one's going to be a little iffy, but I have, information, so you'll be able to contact and tell me what you would like to know about Alaska, maybe some stories you want to hear, find out about. I know I'm just a random 34-year-old dude, just kind of spitting my take on life, and just my viewpoints on things. Dog's looking at me like he has to go out. I know he doesn't have to go out. But yeah, once this goes out, I plan to put one out. I would like to probably like one every 2 weeks until I get way more comfortable with it. I'll get more kind of talking points put out there. But that Lady and the Wolf thing, really, really crazy. But a lot of them will be conspiracies. Um, and just, you know, what you talk about with your friends when you're smoking out, blazed up, super stoned, spacey. You know, who knows? Come up with crazy ideas. At least they'll be recorded and they'll be put out on a podcast. So if you get rich off an idea, yeah, boy. uh, but yeah, I mean, that's really the why. Like I said, I've been talking about this for probably 3 years now. Probably ever since the first time I was referred to a Joe Rogan podcast, and then I kind of got addicted to podcasts, and then went down a rabbit hole and found a lot of their comedians. I really love listening to their podcast, and then, you know, just depending on like what type of rabbit hole I would go down, I would listen to serial killer podcast and just different things. But I have a core group of podcasts that I really like, and I think that comedy vibe is more my style. The shooting the shit, just talking about bullshit and how crazy the world is. The fucking lady, man, I still can't get over the lady. I spend every single day with this dog of mine, and there's no way I would let him open mouth French me like that. Not for a lot of reasons, but, you know, still. So crazy. And so, I mean, along the way, I just find out maybe I'm not as weird as I think I am. There's always somebody out there way weirder than me. And I've learned that from going down rabbit holes and the internet. Man, it's... And that's, well, yeah, why not? Why not start a podcast? If you've seen some of the people on the internet, what the fuck? Like, why would I not do this? Like, I can riff on those people all day long. I can riff on myself all day long. I have no qualms on riffing on myself. There's many of pants shitting situations down the pipeline that we'll discuss, and, you know, all sorts of shenanigans I've got myself into over the years, and still do for some reason, some way, somehow. Ooh, yum yum. Some way, somehow, I still to this day find myself in shenanigans, and I don't even like to. My whole thing was 2 years ago when I turned 33 was to like go zen and just be super chilled, vibed, laid back. And that kind of happened, you know. I went chill, didn't really let a whole lot of stuff bother me, and I let negativity creep in, and maybe that's what it was. But man, still some way the shadiness finds me, whether it's like dating in Alaska, which is a nightmare, because it's like it's a weeding out process. You got to like find out, well, how many kids do you really have? How many boyfriends do you really have? Do you have a husband? Do you have a girlfriend? Like, what the fuck? Like, how many? There's like double, triple dipping, quadruple dipping. Everybody's poly, amorous, bi. I don't know what all of it means. It's so crazy. All these. What's crazy is I'm a millennial, per se. But I'm old school. Like, I don't really keep up to terms with like the whole introvert and ambivert and blurp de blurp and what the fuck, like all of it. I don't like all that stuff. That's all new. Like it would just be it's weird. So you got that stuff. I don't know. I don't even know where I was going with any of that. But I don't have any idea where I was going with that at all. I kind of just completely spaced out. And that, folks, is marijuana. Always keeping you on your toes. But I think I will cut this one to an end for now. Hopefully it'll be a silly enough introduction. I know it's going to be super weird and there's going to be lulls and spaces in there because I don't know. I'm learning. We're all going to learn together. This is going to be a journey, but we're going to do it. I'm investing in me. You know, I finally figured I have to invest in something, so I'm investing in me. So if you want to go on that journey with me, you know, I'm more than appreciative. If people who actually listen to this, that's dope. Because I know I'm not going to listen back to it because I hate the sound of my voice. But it does look like I am going to take my pouty little fur child out. But I do have, at the moment, excuse me, I do have two forms, two methods of contacting me. That is by my email, which is squashingmynutspodcast@gmail. That is squashing, SQUASHING podcast@gmail.com. And also, I created an Instagram as well, and that is S as in squash, M as in my, N as in nuts, and then podcast. So SMN podcast on Instagram. I'll try to throw up like a photo or something that I put out episode 1. And like I said, this is something that's going to grow. Hopefully I can put out an episode every 2 weeks. But then again, who knows? Maybe I'll get a bunch of feedback or just a couple of feedbacks that say you suck and don't ever do it. But I'm going to do it anyways. So, yes, you can get a hold of me at squashingmynutspodcast@gmail or Instagram at SMNpodcast. And if, like I said, if there's anything you want to know about Alaska, if you're thinking about joining the military, if you have any questions about the Army compared to like Air Force or other branches, you can always shoot those questions over. We can always discuss that. Eventually, I plan to get another microphone set up, and that way I can invite in some other of my buddies, and we can talk about some war stories and whatnot, and go down that path. But yeah, anything else? I'm talking to my dog. He says nope. So that is episode number 1 of whatever the fuck that just was. I feel like I blacked out. I'm not going to listen back to this, but I do see that we are at 34 minutes, so that'll be interesting to hear feedback because I'm pretty sure I blacked out. And that tends to happen. I don't know why. That's something I'm trying to figure out myself. You got to go to the VA because blacking out. It's bad when you lose hours and days at a time and you can't remember stuff anymore. I don't know if that's good old CTE creeping in or what that is, but yeah. So let me know because I'm not listening back. But we're at 35 minutes. That seems like a good time to stop and hang out with my pooch. So this has been Squashing My Nuts podcast. And take care.